Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain Exchange. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting, but if you've been painting a while, I also hope you'll paint along with us. And today, we're going to finish our Deer in Winter. The Deer in Winter is a lot of fun, and for those of you that haven't started it, this is the full picture here. This is my first fire. Now, I had the instructions for the first fire, which I've done several times, but I never had the instructions for the second fire. So we're going to do the second fire today. Now, the picture that I'm going to show you next is this half of it I put on a small oval. I reduced it and put it on a small oval. And that gave me the ability to work it and practice. So I have one that I practice on. One thing I want to remind you is make sure that you wipe off your china. I just noticed mine has some dust on it before you get started. You can use, I keep a small spray bottle handy and I put alcohol in it and I just spray everything and wipe it down. Now, you don't want to do it with everything. Regular paint is fine, but you don't want to do it like with lusters and things like that. So keep that in mind. It's only for your plain painting that you really want to do it. I think you could probably do it for mats too, because they're kind of like plain paint, only they don't have flecks in them. This is how my second fire turned out that I'm practicing on. So as I said, I took half of the picture, reduced it a little bit and put it on this oval plaque. Now this took 3 fires. And the reason it took 3 fires is because I got it all done. It looked pretty good. And then I realized that these little deer here needed to be darker. So I made them darker on the 3rd fire. And then I glued them into the frame. And then I'm going to put a hanger on the back so that it can be hung. So as much as possible, if you can make things, easy for people to figure out how to use, that's ideal. Now, like I said, when I originally did this, I've done the first fire a couple of times, and the instructions I had are only for the first fire. So I kind of had to make up the second fire on my own. We're going to be using basically the same brushes and paints we used last time. I'm going to be using this quite a bit. This is my smoothest brush that I have. It's my filbert. So if you have a brush that does a real nice smooth background for you, that's the brush you should use. I also have a very old brush. It's a cheap brush. I got this. They don't make them I don't see them anymore anyway. They may make them, but I've used it so much I can't even read who did it. But it's an 8. And it's just like the perfect size for doing the shadows underneath the branches on the evergreen. So I'm going to be using that. And I'm also going to be using a stippler. This is the little stippler that I found. Now, I did, as I said when I posted this first fire earlier, I did redo my trees back here because, as you remember, I had to kind of wing it, for lack of a better word. And so I did these more carefully with the stippler. See how it came out? It came out pretty good. And I also am going to be doing a lot more blue on this fire. This pink, it doesn't fire very well. So I'm not using a lot of maroon or pink on this last fire, except for these trees back here. You can see them back here. And then I had a little one there. So anything that I stippled, I probably will redo that in the maroon. But everything else I'm not. And that was mainly because I just really felt like it wasn't working for me. You will need a fine liner, or as I use my scroller. Here, this is my scroller. And then other brushes, just as you think you need. Colors we're going to use, I'm just kept the same palette because I play with the palette. Every time it's a little bit different. So I have ochre, I have rich brown, black, and this is a slate gray. I love the slate gray. I did the border in a slate gray, and it almost reminded me of I think the border would be really pretty if you did it in a midnight blue luster too. This is navy. Then I have maroon, heliotrope, Severs blue, which you may not have. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. It's kind of like a banding blue. I think you could probably get away with a banding blue, because here's banding blue. It's just a little darker. So, you know, if you put it on lightly. I have deep blue green. This is egg. I'm sorry, a lot of these wiped off because I've been playing. Lori pink I put on here. And I also put apple blossom, but I didn't end up using them. The other thing I noticed on the second fire was I'm using the formula that I got from Randy Woolett. It's half balsam of copaiba and half mineral oil. And I'm using that. I also have been using it recently on, I'm doing a couple of ornaments. Here's an ornament. I did it with, I don't know if you can even tell because it's got kind of a shine to it. I did it with metallic paints. And I find that if I use that oil of copaiba and mineral oil mixture, it does much, 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 much better for me. Okay, I'm going to start out with my filbert. Make sure it's clean. Always start out by putting it in your turpentine or your mineral spirits or whatever you use for cleaning, because that's really important. And if you do that, the other thing I do is I always turn my bottles so that the label is away from me so I can see where the line is for my oil, so I don't get too much oil on my brush. You know, if the label's in the front and you put the brush in, sometimes you just get a mess. So, okay, I'm taking and I'm doing both my deep blue green. Let me write that on there, because if some of you are trying to, you see these and you wonder what they are. This is egg and this is deep blue green. Oop. Yeah, my pen has seen better days. Okay. I'm mixing them together and I'm just starting and I'm just going over everything. Severs and deep blue green. I decided for my purposes that color came out absolutely the best. It just looks pretty. It's just gorgeous. I like the combination. Here's the deep blue green by itself. You know, it's a little fakey, and so I'm not that crazy about it. But if you add the Severs to it, this is the Severs, it really makes a difference, and I think people will like it. Now, I'm going right over the pink here because I've decided for my purposes I didn't like the pink. And then I'm gently going up to the deer. I don't want to get any blue on the deer. If I get blue on the evergreen, no big deal, because you're actually going to shade it with blue. So, okay, I'm moving quickly. And for those of you that might be painting along with me, I apologize, but it just seems like it makes more sense to keep this moving, because I'm using the oil of copaiba, which is a drying oil, and mineral oil, which is not. But sometimes the combination. Now, when you're going over your birch trees, I would say try not to cover them completely, because, well, you can, I guess, because you're going to be pulling them out. Wait till you see it. They just pull out beautifully. Okay. You can even add a little bit of, if you have a slate gray or a navy blue, you can add that to the background a little bit, maybe down by the, see, that's navy. If you add that down by the ground, it will look more like a night scene. So, no, I just put more oil on, as you can tell. So decide what kind of a scene you want. I personally just like it to be a pretty blue, kind of a moody scene here. So I'm doing the same thing here. And this blue, as you can see, if I put it on like this, makes a great shadow, this combination on your purples. So I need a little more here. I want, there we go. And this will also cover up. So like, here's the house, that's the smoke. If you don't like what you did, you can put this on a little heavier and it will cover up anything you don't like. So think about what you like, what you don't like about this, and just keep covering it. I'm not going to do the edge with you because the edge is up to you, whatever you want to do. Now, if you like the pink and you want to do everything in maroon, that's fine too. I tried it though, and my maroon fire is kind of funky. And so I'm not a fan of my maroon. This is my maroon. It's a little intense for me. And I'm not a pink fan anyway, so. Okay, I've got a lot of inspiration on my vacation this year. And I'm trying to come up with a way to use it to inspire us for paintings every week. The other thing is, I think it would be helpful at this time of year if we did maybe one ornament, or at least gave you some ideas for ornaments early on like this, so that if you have a show coming up, or you're trying to get them done for a booth, you have that done early. So, okay. Now see, I really like the depth over here, and I like the colors I used, so I'm going to do a little more of that over here. Okay. All righty. Now I'm going to turn it right side up. Oops, I need a little more depth up in here. Don't worry if you go up into the banding that's around this. My banding is with the gray, so it's with my slate gray. That's the color I used on the band here that you can see. So I should probably incorporate some of that slate gray into the background. Here we go. When you need to get your colors dark, wiggle. Let me show you. I put oil on my brush, wipe, and I wiggle. Pull it down and wiggle. Now watch how dark this is going to be. Way too dark. See how dark that is? So for those of you that say, oh, I can't get my paints dark enough, you can. You just need to learn the wiggle process. And let me just tell you, it's an acquired process. It's not easy. So if you start to do it, you'll get used to doing it, but it takes a while to really have it become second nature. Alrighty, I wanted it a little dark up there. You'll see why I'm doing it so dark. Now get on the very end of your brush and start feathering. Feathering means you go one way and then the other, like this, okay? You try to get it as smooth as you can. If you have one of these turntables, of course, I think it's a little easier. If you want to leave the pinks, then don't go down that far. See, I've kind of not gone down that far. I might do a little here because these are all going to be turquoise, 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 and I don't know that I like that. Okay, there we go. Okay, once you're happy with the background, and you can play with it forever, but the thing is, once your paint is starting to get tacky, you don't want to play with the background, or it's going to start pulling, and you're going to have to wipe it off and start over. By pulling, I mean it'll start forming ridges when you pull it, because it's drying, and so it's not really paying attention to you. And I'm just going to take a little Severs, a little deep blue, and I'm just going to do it under here a little. I'm trying to do everything that's in the background on this. Now here, I might want to add a little pink. And that's fine. If you add a little pinky purple, and I'm using Apple Blossom, but you could use any pink you have. Sometimes that just kind of brings the pink through and makes it look more purpley, and it's kind of fun, so you could do that. It also makes it a little more grayish. I'm just mixing my colors. I'm mixing a little bit of Severs with a little bit of Apple Blossom. See what I get? So I'm just playing to see what comes off. There we go. And then I'm also trying to kind of spread that out a little so it looks more realistic as far as shadows. Okay. So now we're going to start up in here, and I'm going to wipe off the white on here. Let me get a Q-tip. It's probably the easiest. I'm going to wipe off the top. And by that, I mean just wipe the bottom third of the limb. Leave the dark, because you're going to see what we're going to do next, okay? And that'll help you with that. And up here, here's another one. Now on the top one, I wiped everything because I want it to stand out. But then down here, can you see? I'm just wiping out like the bottom third. Work up from the bottom just a little. Okay. Now, I'm going to switch brushes. I'm switching to this one that I told you is kind of my standby. It's one of my older brushes. It's a size 8. It always works. It's a little worn on the edges. That might be why it works. And I'm going to I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to put in shadows on the evergreen, because the evergreen is key. Now, these are the shadows I'm looking for, the ones I put on this. I did that with kind of a, I did Severs blue and a little bit of slate gray, because slate gray is kind of dead, and you need to add a little color to it. I side load only, and I come up like this. If you bring it only up from the bottom third, or top 2/3, with a little bit of depth, because that's what you want, you're going to get a really pretty result. Now, this is mainly slate gray here that I'm using. Kind of decide where the colors, where the light is coming from too, because if you do this, you're going to have to pick a side that you're going to shade. So here I'm just going to shade this side. Pull it down a little. Oops. Get a little more of that. Okay. Now, if you're like me, see, I was doing the bottom. That was the mistake. I was trying to do the bottom half. I shouldn't have touched there. Okay. You want to do the top half. You want to pull it up right underneath those branches like this. So keep it as flat as you can, only using the side of your brush. Kind of separate them. Now down here, I didn't realize that I needed to keep going. And my first attempt looked kind of lame. So you want to go down by the deer and get it down there too. And see how that, now if that doesn't work for you and you think, oh, it's not, you can take and on the side that has the light, take your Q-tip and just add a little light. But this is a fantasy scene. This is not a, this is not real life, okay? So don't be surprised if we do this. Now you can also use this end, which is the wedge end, but you have to really carefully follow it up and kind of get off of it pretty easily. Now when we're done here, we're going to go back and we're going to, we're going to go back and we're going to soften these lines, because you don't want, some of it is fine because it gives you kind of a, almost like a shadow on the tree. And if you like that, leave it. This is your plate, not mine. But I personally like it a little wiped off so that you don't see all the little, see here, I've got there. I got to go back in and get some of the blue off. Now, if you want to leave some of these in a shadow, you can. Like this one, we might want to just leave it a little bit in shadow, and that's fine, you know. So it's up to you how you want them to look. This guy, I want him to kind of fade out at the bottom. Here, I have to turn it to get this to wipe the way I want it to wipe. Okay. And then wipe it off on your towel. Always wipe it off on your towel. And then turn it around and finish them out. And that will give you that delicate look that you won't have otherwise. If you try to do it with this, all the way up, you're going to end up with it looking clunky on the edge. And then remember, branches go every which way. You can even do a couple that weren't there before. So don't, you know, feel like you can really play with this as much as you want. Okay. Now, before they get too set in their ways, I'm just taking my brush and pulling lightly, very lightly, just to knock down some of that harsh line on the side from using the eraser. And when I'm happy, then I stop. Now, the brush that I wiped it with is one that I had paint on already from doing the blue background. I didn't get rid of the paint because I want the paint to kind of help me with that. And then here I kind of screwed up a little, so there. Alrighty. Now we're going to do this side. Oh, let's do the house. And use another old favorite to do the house. Did the house in this little blue, and I kind of thought it was kind of cute. Oops. That's a little harsh. Okay. And then I do it here and here. This is a little pointer that I have. It's 0. That I got with that other set of older brushes that I used. I used them for a long time, and I loved them. They always did well by me. They were nice square shaders. They're very flexible, and I got them at Joann's. They don't make them now, but the thing is, when you're buying a brush that's a cheaper brush, make sure you play with it. Make sure you push down, pretend you're painting. All of that's going to make a difference so you can see how it works. Wipe it back and forth to see if it wipes out well. You know, just pretend you're painting with it. Okay, and then here I'm just going to... This is in the background. It doesn't have to be perfect, so I'm not making it perfect. I'm just there. Okay. Now I have to wipe out the snow and smoke. I'll do that with one of these. But yeah, you don't want it to be too perfect. And you do want it to look kind of cool, so... But these deer are a little cartoony, but who cares? At least you know they're deer. I've done deer in the past where you never would have known they were deer. I'm going to take my maroon. I'm not going to use it much. But I am going to go and do these guys over here. Anything you do now is going to really show, so make sure you're happy with it. If you don't like it, wipe it off. Start over. Can't get this to go quite as skinny as I would like. Okay. So when that happens and I can't get it quite as skinny as I would like, I'm just going to put a few on this side, because I kind of like the way it adds a little depth. Okay. Then what I do is I take my pointy guys here, these little pointies, and I go upside down. I do everything upside down. And I just do this to make it look like there's a little snow on them. You can cut them back that way too. Okay. Oh, there. Now we're going to do the stipples, and we're going to do them right this time. These are the stipple trees. I'm going to take my stippler, It's a small stippler. It's really not clean. These stipplers don't clean out very well, I have found. So I have to kind of make circles, put them in my Turpenoid Natural and make circles on my tile until the circles come out fairly clean, and then I know that the stippler is clean. So what is a stippler, for those of you that weren't here last week? It's a roundish brush on the end that's cut at an angle, okay? And I'm going to dip it in my medium, and I'm going to put some, and I'm just dabbing the maroon on it, okay? And then I'm going to go and very gently, oh, I always start with the front one, and it shouldn't. You should always start with the back one. I'm doing them on an angle, because, and then I'm going to go down the middle. I learned this after last week's issues. And then I'm going to go this way. There. Isn't that better? And then this guy, oh. He's just a little, he got a little jug on him, so I'm going to have to test him on my tile, I guess. I'm going to do him this way. All the way down. And this one this way. All the way down. Need a little more oil. Tap, tap, tap. Test, test, test. And come this way now. Oh, too much oil. I'm going to let that dry a minute. And you hear the noise? Can you hear the noise of my stippler? So now we're going to finish our other evergreen, oh, let's put in the ground here first. We're going to take some brown. Turn it upside down, of course. That might be a little harsh. I can trim it back with my Q-tip. There we are. Oh, I had a couple right here. Now, don't worry if they don't look the same as the first ones you did. That's fine. I need a better, cleaner. And then come back, and if they're too harsh for you, do some quick action with your Q-tip. So now, I'm going to go over my my birch. I'm going to have to use this. And I'm going to go up, up. Okay. And then this way, I'm going to go over this way. This guy, I'm going to go over this way and this way. These are not as dark as my other ones, so I may have to put some black on the birch. Then I'm going to take this and just lightly, very lightly, knock down some of those harsh, especially at the ends. You can knock them down. But see there? See there? There we go. It's just holding it flat and pulling your hand over it like this. Okay. And I still have paint on that. Now we're going to take my black. And maybe just going to outline this a little bit because it's kind of not very prominent down there. And then I'm just going to put a little more black. You roll it. I think we talked about this before. You just roll it like this. And you're just going to go back where the black was. I think I put gray because I thought the black was too prominent, but actually, in the end, the black actually looks really nice. over here. I'll do a little more black. It's just lines, 2, 3 lines. Some of this was done in black, and that was done in black. It looks nice. And you could smear a little like this on the bigger trunk, but you don't want to do too much on the, as it gets smaller, you just want to do a couple lines here and there. Otherwise, it's way too distracting. Doesn't that look cool? That looks cool. Down here, it's usually, at the base of a lot of my birch trees, I've always noticed that, here, this guy needs a little love. There's like a lot of black. It seems like they get into a lot of trouble at the base. Like animals brush up against them or something. This is a little thick on this side, so we'll take it off. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do the deer. Oh, I got this guy to do. With him, I'm just going to take my background brush that I was using, and I'm just going to go like this. Going to use it with the severs and the blue, but I should probably put a little gray in there too. But I'm just going to kind of make it the same shape that it should be, like this. So you want, this is a triangle. So what you want to do is, let's get more dark at the base. Okay. You want to, come on. I know what I want on the brush, and when the brush comes up to me, it doesn't have it on it. It drives me crazy. There we go. Then you can take a Q-tip and just do this on this guy, because this guy's nothing. Just pull him down. I guess I need to use more of an eraser. And just pull them towards the center, and you'll be fine with this. I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm just going to put a little yellow. I'm using egg, just to kind of brighten it up. Okay, and now I'm going into my ochre, full load, side load with the rich brown. Okay, and then I'll do, yeah. Well, like I said, this is a Christmas card that I used, so don't expect it to look realistic. It's not going to. I'm going to make her a little browner so that the baby stands out against her. There we go. And turn her upside down and do her head. And bring this down a little more there. There, that's better. No. I need to wipe out her ears and his ears because they've gotten into the background. And I can't really tell what they are. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to take my pointer, take a little ochre, put it on the outside of her ear. Take a little ochre, put on the outside of his ear, outside of this ear. Then I'm going to go into my dark and just put a little in the middle there. If you have a brush that works, doesn't matter how old it is, if it works, use it. And then I'm going to take and add a little dark gray here. I'm going to add a little dark under his foot. A little dark gray here. So that's his foot. That's a foot. That's a foot. Oh, she's kind of got it pulled under her. And ochre, full load, side load. Here we go. Pull that up the front of her. Now, if I'm smart, I may have made it dark enough so that I don't have to do a third fire on just the deer. The last time I had to do a third fire on just the deer because they were not dark enough. Hang on, I got another spot here that needs a little blue. Right here. Okay, that's better. She has a white stripe down the back of her. So I'm going to put that there. And he has little dots, little brown dots on the back of him. Actually, he has white dots, but I'm making him brown because guess what? I forgot to do these earlier. He needs one up here. Put them up close to the top of him and just make them align so they look more like they're laying down. There we go. Okay, and the final thing I'm going to do with him and her is do their eyes. So I've got cleaned my liner, my scroller out, and I'm rolling it in my black and testing it to make sure it's not too oily. Okay. And I'm going to do his nose and his eye and her eye. I kind of actually fixed her eye so it looks a little better. And her nose, leave a little light on the top of her nose. And then he has a little color on each of his little hoofs. Now, if you need to, you can take the black and outline the mama a little. Just separate her from the background. That's perfectly fine. You can even put a little bit of black there to help him separate from the background. I'm going to put a little more brown on my brush. I'll probably ruin things now, but I want a little more brown right here. And I want a little more brown right here to define his head a little better. Okay. I need to sign it, which I will. And then the edge, I should have done it in a royal blue, saved it to do in a deep blue luster, because I think it would be gorgeous. So now you go through and just make any final adjustments. See, I'm adding some of these. They weren't there before. Here's one that was. Here's one that was. So anything you need to add just to make things look more realistic, you can. Just flip them in. Alrighty, pick up those brushes, keep painting. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.